loved ones they had not seen in years.
Oh, all right. Welcome back to This Week in Ghana, your bi-weekly live stream. We talk about all things Ghana. Today, we're going to talk about the Ghanaians who've been evacuated and brought back home from South Africa. We'll be talking about the flooding that is happening here in Ghana and why that matters to those of you who are looking at real estate here in country. We'll also be talking about the EVISA launch and also the visa fee removal for other African nationals. And lastly, we will talk about the new scanning technology at the Accra International Airport. But before we get into today's stories, we start with introductions. So I will turn it over to our co-host before I introduce myself.
Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I am a producer, a writer, a speaker, a cultural strategist, tourism curator, and author of the book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. I tell stories from Ghana, and I'm passionate about changing the narrative of Africa. And I recently launched a new community called Tall Ghana, bringing the community of tall people together in Ghana. And you can reach me on all social platforms at Ivy Prosper and follow my Tall Ghana community at Tall Ghana.
There it is. And I'm Joe Hatagwa, founder of Authentic African Media. We help people visit, move, and invest on the continent of Africa. We also do weekly live streams where we talk about the news of the day around the continent. And then we also do specifically Sierra Leone and Ghana, which are the two countries where I spend a significant amount of time. I am in Ghana right now as we speak, just arrived from Sierra Leone this afternoon. And so, this is where I am at least 3 times a year. So with that, let's jump back into the story. So as you saw at the opening, Ghana has repatriated or brought back a number of nationals that were in South Africa. And amongst the rising Afrophobic attacks, I would like to say, because really the challenge has been really mostly specifically focused on Africans in general. There's many stories that you've heard, we've all heard of people describing their experiences. And so we thought we'd play more of this video so you can hear a couple more stories from folks who have just returned, and then we'll have some commentary on the other side.
However, officials say the return marks only the beginning of the reintegration process. Authorities have outlined support measures, including psychological assistance and financial aid, to help returnees rebuild their lives.
Today's welcome ceremony is fully packed. You are going to receive psychosocial support. We have psychologists, we have medical doctors, we have nurses here to take care of you. There will be a reintegration allowance, a special package to help you put your lives back on track.
Despite uncertainties, many returnees say they are ready to start afresh and take advantage of the support being offered.
Yeah, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, they are going to help us. So we are looking forward to that as well. And we are also going to do our best to ensure that we do something to support our lives. Yeah.
More Ghanaians are expected to return in the coming days as the government continues evacuation efforts. While gratitude dominates among those back home, the road ahead remains uncertain for many as they work to rebuild their futures.
All right. So, Ivy, your thoughts on this story, the returnees and the stories. I know you and I talked about it anecdotally. We've seen some videos, but the stories of what some people had experienced living in South Africa.
I think that it is a good idea that the government decided to step in and help people to repatriate back home. I do think it's an unfortunate situation where there is a minority group of people in South Africa who are having the xenophobic behaviors towards people from other African countries. And I think it's a real shame because I was watching, not watching, but I was reading some posts on Threads and on Twitter, X, formerly Twitter, and there was a particular person who it seemed like she was very angry about the fact that the way that Ghana had responded to getting their citizens back to their country. And one of the things that I find problematic is, I mean, she was saying that if people are going to be illegal, if people are not getting their documentation right, that they should be removed from the country. Now, I don't dispute that if somebody's doing something illegally, that they should suffer the consequences. However, they should let the law be what disciplines the people who may have been there illegally, because not everyone was there illegally. A lot of people were there legally, had their businesses they were running. I think what's problematic is the behaviors of some of the South Africans who feel this way, to be attacking people, to be beating people, to be violent towards people. That is not the way that you treat your fellow Africans who are there from another country, minding their business. So I do think I was actually impressed with how quick Ghana responded. So much that I saw some people from Nigeria even commenting and saying that they wish their government reacted so swiftly to remove some of their people to bring them back home. They were like, wow, Ghana's country, their president, their government really cared about the people to bring them back. So I think that it's a good thing that Ghana did that. And let's see what happens now that the people are here. I know that they announced that there's going to be some programs to support them to reintegrate back into the system, because that's one thing. If they've been gone for a long time, because some of these people may have been gone for many years, you come back, you don't have work, you don't have a business, you don't have anything. How do you get yourself back into the system after you've been away for so long? So it's good that the government has a few initiatives to try to help them. I just hope that it's sustainable, because if it's let's say it's a one-time thing and then they're kind of left to try to figure out on their own, that might be quite difficult, especially if the people returning don't have a strong support system to bring them back up to, a comfortable way of living. So let's see what happens. And hopefully this is an example of, why we need to start understanding each other, why we need to have more conversations. Why is it that they're attacking Africans? Because there are non-Africans who are controlling much more in that country than Africans. So it just seems so bizarre. And I read something today that said that there was a woman who's now pleading with the companies that are owned by white South Africans, pleading with them to fire people and then hire them in place of people that they fire who they're saying are foreign nationals in the country. And then one particular person was saying, why would he want to fire somebody who's skilled at what he needs to operate his business? If he fires those people, are there people who are in South Africa who are going to replace that particular skill? Migration between countries is such a common thing around the world. People move to other countries because their skills are needed. People from businesses hire people from other countries simply for skills needed. So it's I hope that this is a symbol or a sign, a catalyst to the way that things can be done in the future. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. And the woman you're talking about is Jacinta Zuma. She used to be a radio personality. I don't know if she still currently is on the radio, but that's how she's been described. Former radio personality is the way I've seen her being described. She's been the one leading most of the outward communication, right? The one who's been the most vocal, the one who's been the most viral. Her and a gentleman who his name is escaping me, but he is a person of Zulu descent. He's been kind of on the front lines. You've seen walking. You've also seen him attack people as well, although he himself has said that these are non-violent protests. So I do want to play a little bit of what you were saying for some context for folks. So the press conference that was held where Jacinta actually said that the government of Ghana overreacted. There's some clips that I'll play a little bit of this clip here so people can get a little bit of an idea of that. And then I'll also play the video from the gentleman I just mentioned who gave Africans a deadline to leave the country of June 30th. So that gives a little bit more context as to why this happened, right? Because I think her saying that the government of Ghana overreacted, juxtaposed with this statement, I think is really interesting. So actually, I'll play his statement first, and then I'll play hers afterwards. So we'll play that, and then to give everyone some context as to what we're talking about here. So let me share this tab.
That are committed by illegal foreigners. So we are saying to the government, let us help you. As you can see, these marches are 1 year old, and we have never called for any leader to come down. We have never called for any leader that he is corrupt. We have never called for any leader. We have never saw any leader. Why we are saying, we are your people. We elected you to those positions. Listen to us. This march is about that. So no foreigner must feel scared or threatened by us walking. They must just respect us and respect the call that we are saying they must go back to their countries by 30 June this year. Every foreigner in South Africa. It is.
And you see, he said every foreigner in South Africa. He did not say illegal foreigners in South Africa. That just to make sure that that was clear, right? There's a lot of the communication is around every, not just illegal people who have overstayed a visa or don't have a visa, right? So now let's play a little bit from Jacinta, where she herself says,
where I think the Ghanaian government really overreacted. I think it's disappointing, man. I think we've had a lot of respect for Ghana as a country and for the people of Ghana, and we still do. But for them to react in the way that they did is largely dishonest, because for them to claim that there were people who were beaten up when they know there were no people beaten up, and for the Minister of Police to even echo that is absolutely ridiculous. Instead of them addressing that issue in a correct manner, to say, listen, we noted that there's a citizen of ours who is in the country, so broken the laws, these are our concerns, etc., etc. They decided to do a whole PR exercise that would paint South Africa as xenophobic. Very disappointing.
all right, so to that point, I'll share a tab. Now, there are many videos. This gentleman here is saying his first-hand account. And he was treated in South Africa. Sorry. Now, I think it's important to call that out, right? Because Jacinta is saying that Ghanaian government overreacted. And as you can see here, that's a first-hand account. Obviously, we can't corroborate that particular story, but this is a Ghanaian that has returned back home from South Africa, and he said this is his specific account. There's also a viral story of a woman who has physical bruises still, swelling around her eye, etc., talking about her most recent experience. And so, you know, I think Jacinta is the one that's being dishonest. Let's be real. Now, as someone who believes in nuance, we understand that this isn't the entire country's belief system, right? This is the belief system of a loud minority, but we just don't know how big that group is. And there are a lot of people that are also quiet who aren't speaking up against this Afrophobia or xenophobia. And so that makes you wonder if they also agree with it. It reminds me of other countries, like in the United States, when you have folks who say that, you know, all the Mexicans are taking all the jobs, or people now who say all the Africans are taking all the jobs. You know, there's a growing discontent for the government, and the belief system is that the government is allowing people to take their jobs as opposed to focusing on making adjustments to the government. And the last thing I'll say is, look at the marches in South Africa versus the marches in Kenya. Two completely different countries, two completely different parts of the continent, but they both have similar problems, but who are they focused on for those problems? There are a lot of Nigerians, Cameroonians, Sierra Leoneans, Ghanaians in Kenya. Kenyans are not marching against other Africans. Who is their focus on? It's the elite class. It's the political system. It's specific policies. They're calling for specific policy changes. In South Africa, the marches tend to be focused on other African nationals. So I think it's important to just look at those two countries who both are dealing with similar instances, and which, by the way, are, compared to the rest of the continent, the countries that are doing some of the, like, doing the best in terms of GDP and, you know, jobs, etc., right? But just in terms of those who are not doing well, when you are looking at these two countries, who is their eye towards? Who are they focused on? And I would love to see South Africa take a different stance. And I'll just actually say one more thing. Seeing what's been happening here, I think helps me understand why the party of Julius Malema did not win, did not get even a large enough minority group to be able to go into power with the party that Ramaphosa is with today. And this is the party of, you know, Nelson Mandela. But you think about the way that parliament works, they have to have a coalition with another party in order to have to be able to run the government, basically. And they did their alliance with the Democratic Alliance, which is a largely Afrikaner, white European political party, right? And I wondered for a while why that was. It seemed like, you know, the party of Nelson Mandela would be focused on freedom and justice for Africans, and they would, a Malema type figure in his party might be one that they would do the alliance with, and they didn't. And it seems to me now, I can understand maybe why some of the voting public did not vote for Malema's party, and why Ramaphosa's party did not do an alliance with them, but did with the Democratic Alliance. And so there's a comment here too. Last thing I'll say, I know I keep saying that's the last thing I'll say, but correction, they took their grievance to the government officials. Right, but they took the grievance to the government officials about foreign nationals, not about policies, about like economic policies for the country. So they did. They went to embassies as well, right? They went to embassy. I saw them sitting outside of the Ethiopian embassy saying that you need to send your Ethiopian citizens back home, that they shouldn't even, there's been even talk about there shouldn't even be an Ethiopian embassy in South Africa. I mean, this is obviously, like I said, this isn't the entire country, but this is a loud minority. And, you know, there's a reason why these videos are going viral, right? It's not as if they don't happen. It's not happening. It's happening. It may not be the sentiment of the entire country. It may not even be the sentiment of more than 30% of the country, but it's a large enough group and a loud enough group that it has captured the attention of people all around the world. And so that's why we're talking about it. I said a lot there. Ivy, did you have anything else to add on this story?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. So we will move on to the next story. We're back at Ghana. And by the way, we'll keep people updated on this if there are more people repatriated back home, more policies, etc. Oh, and you know, you mentioned everything about the practices that they're putting into place for those to come back, who are coming back home, I think is really important. So I do want to mention that is the right thing to do. It seems like this government has really thought through steps beyond just bringing people back, but how do they repatriate, right? That's a process that is in and of itself. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the next story. And, you know, Ivy has mentioned this on a number of different live streams previously about, you know, if you're thinking about renting, buying, moving to Ghana, you should definitely come to Ghana during the rainy season. You should see what life is like here. I don't know if you want to say something before I play the video, but yes, you should definitely come here first.
Yeah, I always tell people that if you are looking to buy land, you're looking to buy a house, rent a place, you know, if you're going to be on the ground floor, that you should come and look during rainy season, because that is when you'll see how that area will be during one of the worst times to be, especially in the greater Accra area. The flooding is insane, and he's going to show you a clip.
Yes, so we'll play this clip and then we'll have some commentary on the other side. Channel 1 said, as part of a post-flood impact assessment, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, together with another minister, had inspected the flood-affected communities in the municipalities surrounding Accra. She directed the MCE to demolish structures obstructing waterways as part of efforts to improve drainage and prevent future flooding. There are tons.
Where is this? Where you're reading? Is it from one of the stories?
Yeah, it's from Channel 1. Channel 1 story.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll play the video in a second here. But there are many videos that have, you know, the flooding. You'll see it in this video. But I mean, if you just Google the videos, you'll be astonished and shocked by the level of flooding that you see in certain areas. So we'll play this video, have some commentary on the other side. Yes, so we'll be right back with some thoughts.
Please check. That's different thing altogether. Yeah, all this shit. News and up to Wednesday. Me, I'll be here on Wednesday. I'll be here on Wednesday to inspect again. By today's week. Okay. Naka really said, oh, definitely.
All right, so that is just a video, right? There are videos. I mean, I wanted to have a news video to show. There are many other videos, firsthand accounts that you can find that show even worse flooding. And this particular instance, they are looking to demolish particular structures that are blocking water flow. That is one problem, but that's not the only problem. And then, by the way, it's not only a problem here in Ghana, right? In many countries in West Africa, we have these issues where cities haven't been really built to handle excessive flooding because it's, you know, the flooding is worse and worse every year, right? The weather becomes worse and worse every year. And so when these cities were built, they were built in anticipation of this level of flooding. So yeah, but your thoughts, Ivy, on this particular story and the flooding that's been happening in country from even your own firsthand accounts.
Well, I think that it's just another year. This happens all the time, every single year, and a large part of it is Accra is a low-lying city, and then the drainage systems in a lot of neighborhoods, some of them were not done very well, some, not all, some. And then we have a problem with people dumping their garbage into some of these open gutters. And then when it rains, the things just choke it, and then it's got nowhere to go but to flood into places because it's been choked from all of the plastic and waste that's being dumped into these sewers where the water is actually supposed to flow, you know. And then when they talk about demolishing structures, a lot of times there's people who are building structures where they're not supposed to build them. I know that there was, you know, I had an issue where some water was rising into my house some years ago, and it turned out that they checked the sewage system and there were people dumping cement blocks into the sewage system. And then so when it rained, those blocks ended up stopping underneath my house, and then that was a problem causing drainage issues. And I'm just like, why would somebody be throwing cement blocks into the drainage system? So people's behavior is causing a lot of the problems as well, not only the bad infrastructure, but also people's behaviors. And I think that sometimes one of the things about the infrastructure too is, I mean, there was a time when all of Ghana didn't even have 10 million people. Now the country has like 35 million people, and the same systems that were built for the small number of people is the same system supporting with the over 30 something million people now. or 34 million, give or take. It really needs a massive overhaul to make sure that this doesn't happen. So it's a combination of making an overhaul with the systems of where water is flowing, and then changing people's behavior so they don't keep tossing garbage where they're not supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to that point, you know, as we see urbanization happening, you see more and more cement being laid, right? Not as many trees being planted. There's not as much, you know, areas in people's compounds and houses that have places for the water to get soaked into the ground. And so that runoff either goes into a gutter or just out into the street. And that does also have an impact too. So, you know, infrastructure not being prepared for this level of flooding and this many people, as Ivy mentioned, you know, there was a time, you know, 30, 40 years ago where 10 million people were in, you know, were in the entire country. Now it's 35 million plus people in one country. The number of houses that are going up, the amount of cement that is there where water doesn't soak in, but it actually just runs off somewhere else. There's this saying that people say is that water will find a way, and water will flow wherever it can, however it can, to go wherever it needs to go. And if you don't have plants and soil on your property to soak up some of that water, you might be contributing to that problem. And to Ivy's earlier point about coming to the continent, you know, when we talk to people about visiting before moving and visiting during the rainy season, it is for this reason. And especially if you're thinking about buying land, because, you know, I mentioned this to Ivy offline, but the first Airbnb I stayed in when I came to Ghana, I didn't know that, because I had been to Ghana before, but I had never been during the rainy season. So I came to Ghana, and the Airbnb that I stayed in, you know, the Ubers refused to come within like 100 feet of the house, because as they pulled up to the street, there were these ditches and these potholes that were full of water. And most of the cars are like these Toyota Pintos. They're tiny. And so they were scared because they didn't know how deep these potholes were, right? And you can hear cars getting damaged driving through them. So, you know, I had to just like hop around these different puddles to get to my house with my suitcases, right? I got out of the car and I'm like hopping around with my suitcases. And that's just one example, anecdotal, but you know, there are many more detrimental things that can happen. You know, house flooding happens frequently in areas like that because of those specific situations. Also, mosquitoes love puddles. And so if you're worried about mosquito bites, malaria, etc., you don't want to be somewhere where you have the potential for this, because that's what they do. They hang out in gutters where there's like just standing water, and they hang out in puddles where there's standing water, and they can be, they don't hang out as one or two. These mosquitoes can be in like, you know, swarms. So things to think about when you're thinking about buying here. You just want to make sure you visit first during the rainy season, and you actually see what the environment looks like before you purchase and or even rent, if you're planning to rent.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the flooding?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So moving on to the next story. So Ghana has now launched the new EVISA portal, and it's basically scraps fees for Africans who have an African passport. So we will play this video from the foreign minister and have some commentary on the other side.
Media that there was some EVISA contract which we are not respecting, and that there could be judgment debt and all of that. Let me allay the fears of the people of Ghana that there is no such existing EVISA contract. Nothing of the sort exists We've checked through the files. Our director legal is here. Indeed, the Minister of the Interior also wrote to the Attorney General to find out if there was any such contract, and to also present to the Attorney General for analysis the machine-readable contract which existed, and that is for visa stickers. And the Attorney General's opinion is that that does not represent an e-visa arrangement. The machine-readable contract is different from an e-visa system. And so let me assure the general public that there will be no judgment that no contract has been cancelled anywhere, and we do not have any issues at all so far as contracting is concerned. This is also a PPP arrangement. It's a PPP arrangement, and the beauty about this arrangement is that taxpayers have not been burdened. The private partner is setting up the system, of course, under the supervision of the Ministry of Communications, NITA, and the Cybersecurity Authority. So they are investing, and that is how they will recoup their investment over a long period. And so we didn't have to burden taxpayers to, as it were, pay for this system. So it's a very beautiful arrangement, which has been very cost-effective and no burden at all to the Ghanaian taxpayer. And I hope that this clarifies all of those matters that came up this morning. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ghana is truly open for business and tourism, and we thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for his vision to pioneer this on this auspicious day. Let me wish all of you a happy Africa Union Day. Long live the great continent of Africa.
All right, so we'll leave it there. So the EVISA program, Ivy, your thoughts on this program launching and what it means for those who are traveling to Ghana?
I think it's great. I think it gives people an opportunity to apply for their visa without having to go through the cumbersome activity of going to drop off your passport while they work on it, have them send it back to you, not knowing if there's going to be delays. All those things are what people are trying to avoid when you have an e-visa. And so I'm interested in seeing if they're really going to be able to keep up with the 48 hours that they were saying to do it. So, I mean, I think it's impressive to finally get it done. It should have been done a long time ago because they kept talking about it. But now that it's finally here, I know a lot of people have been complaining that it's too expensive because it's $260, which is a lot more than what you would pay for a visa to come. So some people are saying that they don't mind because they get the convenience of doing it right away and getting it within 48 hours. And then others are saying that it's not going to be the same because, you know, Ghanaians would celebrate when they got their, sorry, not that, that's not what I'm saying. I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought completely. Oh my gosh. I started thinking about when Ghanaians celebrate when they get their passport because the passports take so long. But no, with the e-visa, yeah, so basically it's a really good thing because of the fact that people will get it faster, but the expense is the biggest issue now because some people have said that the price right now is close to what people would pay for a multiple entry. And so they're saying that it's a lot for a single entry visa, and really you're just paying for the convenience. And then I know a lot of people were wondering if they are able to get the do it the old way still. Right now, you still can. Just know that you're going through the old process of sending in your passport and it taking a bit of time, and then you hoping that it arrives before your flight. Because I know that is one of the sources of contention people have had in the past, is that their things don't arrive in time, then they've got to fly, then they have to change their flight plans, which changes their whole trip plan. So you're really just paying for convenience. And I saw that there was a post on X, formerly Twitter, that was made by a Ghanaian creator named Matt Jordan. He posted that he felt that it was too expensive, and then he listed out different African countries and what they're charging for their e-visas, and most of them were within, I think most of them were within $50 to $100 and something dollars. So he was saying that Ghana is extremely expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, so and I understand that, but I think why it's expensive is because, to the point that was just made in that video, that they didn't want to pass on that tax burden to local Ghanaians. So it is a private company doing it. As he mentioned, they have a private partner. Private companies, capitalism, they charge for their services. So, instead of the taxpayers of Ghana paying for other people to get visas to come to Ghana, that got passed on to those people who are applying for those visas. And to your point, it is a convenience fee, right? When you go to a convenience store, those prices are more expensive than you go to a wholesale store, right? The wholesale store, there might be just one and it might be further away. But if you have one right in your neighborhood, it's really close by, you're going to pay for the convenience because it's right there. Generally, you pay a convenience fee. That's how it works. So for those complaining about it, I also do understand it, that other countries may not have it, but who takes on the costs of that? And I think it's really important that we don't add more costs to the average Ghanaian, and that, those people who want to go to Ghana should pay the price for a visa. Now, on that note, that is for people who don't have African passports, right? Because there also is a new launch for visa fees for Africans being removed. So that leads into the next story. So we'll play this video and have some commentary on the other side. Let me just add some notes. So Ghana's President John Mahama announced that African passport holders traveling to Ghana for business or tourism will now be able to apply for visas through the new online visa system without paying any visa fees. So Mahama says the move is aimed at making travel across Africa easier while still maintaining security and efficient border management. He also revealed plans to further expand easier travel access for people of African descent around the world, describing the initiative as part of Ghana's commitment to Pan-African unity, inspired by Kwame Nkrumah. Now, obviously, if you have a West African passport, as I do, you do not have to pay. You're under ECOWAS, so you just come into Ghana. But for those who are other parts of Africa outside of ECOWAS, they have had to have a visa previously and had to pay for a visa. But this EVISA program is, as it's been rolled out, it has now been free for other Africans. So, which I think is also interesting. So we'll play this video and we'll have some commentary on the other side.
Effective today, from this moment, all holders of African passports traveling to Ghana for business or tourism will apply for visas exclusively via the new online EVISA platform, and they will pay no visa fee. And so, for emphasis, all African passport holders will not be required to pay visa fees when they apply online.
All right. So what do you think about that caveat, Ivy, that no African passport holders will have to pay the visa fees?
I mean, I think that it's one of the initiatives to try to make sure that Africans can travel smoothly from country to country. It's a source of, what's the word? It's quite disappointing for a lot of them when they're traveling from country to country. Then you get somewhere and they're just kind of like, hold up, no, you can't come in here without paying X amount or whatever. I feel like President Mahama wants to remove that barrier for other Africans who choose to come to Ghana, because there's a lot who are here. A lot of them come to school here, and then they leave. And then they want to come back. You know, you want to go free. You want to be able to do trade, especially with the African Continental Free Trade Area. Like, it makes it easier if you have a business meeting. If you're in, Rwanda, you have a business meeting in Ghana, you can just board on a plane and know that you're not going to be worried about how much am I going to pay for this visa? How much am I going to pay? Sorry if I'm talking out of left field, like I'm going all over the place. I'm a bit tired tonight, so my mind is just like all over the place. And I think it encourages Africans to not allow the visa process to become the barrier of them traveling, because already travel within Africa is expensive. Getting a flight, like I remember looking to see how much would it be if I was going to fly from Ghana to Benin instead of driving, and it was like $1,000, and I'm like, to Benin? Are you serious? So I know that there's a lot of Africans that do road trips because the flights are expensive. So, removing the barrier of the cost of the visa is very helpful, because I've heard stories about some African countries charging like $200, getting visas. Because I've seen videos of other creators who've talked about how expensive it can be going from country to country. So I think it's a good idea that he's decided to do this to help other Africans when they come to Ghana.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, and, to your point, this is a conversation we've been having for a long time, that the continent of Africa should have freedom of movement the way Europe does. Right. I think I don't always point to Europe as the beacon of light for things, but specifically for the fact that when you talk to someone from the UK, they've been to Spain and Italy and all kinds of other places because they make it easy to travel between countries. They always will tell you, oh, I've been to Spain many times. I've been to Italy many times. I've been to France many times. And then vice versa. You talk to French people. They've been to England many times because they make it easy to travel between countries. The continent of Africa has historically, or at least in recent history, made it difficult to travel between countries for all the reasons we just described. Airfare is expensive. Then on top of that, there are visas. Then on top of that, sometimes visas are not even issued, right? And so the fact that a visa can be issued, but then the cost is so high, I think has always been a challenge. It's cost prohibitive for many people. And I think that's what leads to some of the challenges we see with, like, let's say South Africa, or when we talked about, the previous misunderstanding about what the traditional garb that Muhammad was wearing at a meeting in an East African country. The name is escaping me. But, these kinds of things, I think, create barriers more than build unity. And,
right.
Kwame Nkrumah being someone who helped found the country of Ghana on Pan-African principles after having gone to an HBCU, being inspired by Marcus Garvey and Marcus Garvey's principles of Pan-Africanism. I think, I like to see that we're continuing that legacy and doing that through policy, not just words, right? Because it's really important that you lead by example. And, people don't know something is possible until they see it a lot of times. So now that it's been done in Ghana, we hope to see it be done in more places. And other people have offered it as well. Burkina Faso has talked about doing this in other countries as well. So I don't want to act as if Ghana is the first or the only. But as far as one of the countries that people have been going in large numbers to vacation, et cetera, it's really important to have a policy like this moving forward and having it written into law so that it stays that way. I think it's really important. So, we want to see more of it. We're excited for it. And kudos to the government here, this current administration, in following through on some of the promises of Kwame Nkrumah's legacy. So with that, we will move on to the last story. And this one is about 3D scanners to end or reduce the amount of belt and shoe removal at the Accra International Airport. So John Mahama's administration's building rapidly on their digital modernization drive. They announced a major technical upgrade at the Accra International Airport. It's aimed at permanently eliminating what some people call the most frustrating bottlenecks of air travel security. So the president revealed that the state has begun installing cutting-edge 3D security scanners at both Terminal 2 and Terminal 3, a structural shift designed to dramatically cut down transit times and elevate the passenger screening experience to 21st century global standards. I will say that there's still places around the world where you still have to take off your belt and your shoes. So let's just be clear that it's not like they're bringing it up to standard. This is above and beyond some others, because there are many other places where you have to take off your shoes unless you're TSA pre-check. And I can speak specifically as someone who travels frequently throughout the United States. So I'll play this quick video and then we'll have a little bit more commentary on the other side.
In both Terminal 3 and Terminal 2. These tests will eliminate the need to remove laptops and liquids from your hand baggage when you travel. Also, in August, we are receiving and installing new equipment that will spare travelers using our airports the inconvenience of having to remove their shoes and their belts.
You got a standing ovation from somebody on that one. That was interesting. But no, I think that
I was there, and the way that people were excited when he said that, like some people around me were just like, woo! And it was like, wow, that was the pain point for a lot of these people, was taking your shoes off and your belt off, and that's what made them go woo. They were like, ah, and people were looking at each other and smiling, and I was quite surprised that was such a big deal for people.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are airport inconveniences. I think when I'm traveling, I'm expecting inconvenience. You know, but this actually helps advance more than just you know, the description said bringing it up to 21st century standards. It actually brings it beyond many other places in 21st century standards. As I mentioned, unless you're TSA pre-check or pre-check plus other things, you generally have to take your shoes, your belt off. You generally have to take your laptop out of your bags in most airports around the United States. If you know, as people want to consider that.
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't have to in Amsterdam. I didn't. I was like, oh, I didn't have to take it. You know, you didn't have to take all that stuff off when I went through the airport there. But the U.S., yes,
that'd be surprising, right? Yeah, it might be surprising to go to an airport where you don't have to, right? Because in most other places you have to. But yeah, I mean, I'm TSA pre-check, and I'm pre-check plus the other one, whatever it is, scanning, whatever. And you know, obviously that for me has made life easier to travel through there without having to take my laptop out, without having to take my shoes off, etc. And even sometimes they bring you into the general line and they have you hold your, you know, they give you a little something that says your TSA pre-check and you can walk through. But it does reduce the inconveniences. And what they mentioned too is you no longer have to take your liquids out of your bags. You know, you don't. So that's all some of the other things too, because it does slow things down when you're going through the line and you're taking.
That's true. Yeah.
Your laptops out, and then you need all these extra trays, right? I'm someone who travels with a laptop and an iPad, so I always have to take out a separate tray for each one, then another tray for the bag, and then another tray for my shoes off. And it is a lot to do, and you know, a lot of people are running late for flights. And so I think it does reduce that burden. I think it is really helpful. So yeah, any other thoughts on that?
No other thoughts on that.
Okay, cool. So Jade is saying as long as they're not scanning your irises, biometrics. Yeah, I mean, look, you can sign up for that. There are certain countries that do that. I definitely signed up for one of those where they do facial recognition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
you signed up for one of those?
For facial recognition, not an iris scan. So
okay.
So global entry in the United States, it uses facial recognition. So so when I'm coming into the country, because I travel in and out of the United States often, as I mentioned, at least 4 times a year, I travel into the United States. That is at a minimum. Sometimes up to maybe 10 times a year, I'm traveling in and out of the United States. And there is a longer line to go through customs, and then there is the global entry line. And global entry usually takes me about 5 minutes to walk through. You just walk up to the machine, it scans your face, you get into another shorter line, you walk up, you know, they may even just ask you your name, see your passport, take a quick scan at it, take a look at you, and wave you through. pretty quick. And in some cases, they don't even ask for your passport. In the same instance, you have with this TSA pre-check additional layer. I can't remember what it's called, but I did it when there was the TSA strike and I needed to get through the airport within 3 hours instead of what the normal time of 30 minutes is. So I signed up for this additional pass, and they use facial recognition. A lot of people are worried about that. If they want to find you, they can find you. It's already used. Facial recognition is already used. So, if you've already signed up for TSA pre-check, you're just making your life a little bit easier. So for me, that's one of the things that you do. For convenience, you are giving up some security and privacy. That is just how it works in life. So, you're using your thumbprint to open up your phone. You're using your face to open your phone. These are all things in technology that can be hacked or used against you if someone so chooses. So we just have to know that in a world where we live in today, if we've decided that we want more convenience, then we have to have some privacy and security to do so. But yeah, I don't commit any crime, so I'm not worried about my facial recognition being used as long as I'm not wrongly accused of a crime. That's one of the things that you always
right. That's the worst part. Wrongly accused.
Yeah, so that's the one thing you have to worry about. So the African Chronicle says, "Big Brother's watching you after all. They're watching us all. They're watching us all." Okay, so well, that was the last story. A lot of entry into Ghana. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Are you hearing that? Okay, went away. I think it's really important for a country like Ghana to set the example for other countries on, one, making travel in and out of the country easier, and two, making sure that they tout it and announce it as much as possible. I think it's really, really important that they continue to do it. So I'm glad that they've made these changes. I look forward to seeing how that makes some progress within country and people coming in and out of country. On that last point of bringing people home and offering psychological assistance, repatriation assistance, even it looks like a stipend of some sort. I think all of that is the exact things you want to see from a government, right? Not lip service, but actual policy, that actually takes care of people. And I don't want to get into politics, just speaking specifically to policy. I don't care what party it is, what country it is. These are the kinds of things that we expect from our government. So when we see it, we applaud it. So I'm glad to have seen that. So that was my final thought on that. With that, make sure you follow Ivy at Ivy Prosper across all platforms. Pick up her book on moving to Ghana. It's on Amazon. You can also follow me on all platforms at Authentic African. And you can also sign up for my newsletter. Link will be in the description below. So if you're interested in a weekly newsletter on the news happening around the continent, and then I'm also launching the collective where I'm giving access to all of my resources. So plumbers, contractors, real estate agents, lawyers, etc. So that's
interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So I have Google Sheets where I used to keep all of this information. Now I'm making it available to people who sign up for the collective. So if you are interested in those things, and shout out to Jada who commented today. She was one of the first people who signed up for the collective for the year. So shout out to her. I want to make that. I want to shout her out. So for those of you who are interested, those are there. Starlink provider was just added because I just had Starlink installed in Sierra Leone. And I'll also add resources for Ghana as well. I have a ton of resources. My plumber that I used, and a number of other people that I used when I was in Ghana, and other resources that people recommend to me, they will be in those sheets. So if that's of interest to you, you can sign up for the collective in the link below. Any final words from you, Ivy, before we go?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Tonight, I was tired and made it through with telling you guys all the news from Ghana this week. I have had so much going on, and I think that it is important when you are considering relocating or visiting a country like Ghana, that you keep up to date with all of the news that's been happening and get an understanding of the lay of the land, what people are doing, what they're thinking, what policies are changing that might benefit you or might work against what you're trying to do. So I think that, staying tuned to the breaking news stories that we tell is very helpful to you as well. So thank you so much for joining. As he said, you can follow me on social platforms at Ivy Prosper, and follow my YouTube channel. I do also tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. So, and I have my podcast, my Prosper Conversation podcast, talking to thought leaders as well. So yes.
There it is. Thanks for watching, guys. See you all in a couple weeks.
Bye for now.